20 years ago, when Toyota first introduced the Sienna nameplate back in 1998, the minivan segment was hot. It was booming. It was the it car to get if you lived in America and you needed a vehicle to haul around your family and all the crap that comes associated with married life. Now, when Toyota introduced the third generation Sienna back in 2011, the minivan segment has drastically changed. Sales have significantly decreased from 20 years ago. Everyone just kind of wants an SUV. It's just not the cool car to get anymore if you guys are looking to haul around your stuff. Now, for 2018, Toyota has made some slight changes to the Sienna overall, but roughly it's still the same vehicle that we saw nearly 7 years ago. So if you guys are looking for an all-new minivan, is the 2018 Sienna still worth a look? That's what we're here to find out. So back when this generation first came out, I actually had just graduated college. I remember the old marketing slogans that Toyota used. They called this the swagger van, especially when you guys chose this SE trim level, which is technically their sport-oriented model. Toyota offers the Sienna in 5 trims here in America. Now let's first talk about the design. It hasn't really changed much over the years. Now Toyota did give it a slight refresh in 2015, but you can always tell this is an SE from the unique grille inserts with the mesh finish. You have a slightly blacked out chrome treatment in the grille. You have a Toyota emblem that houses the radar sensor because Toyota Safety Sense P became standard in 2017. And then the SE also has these dark finished projector halogen headlights with an LED daytime running light. And then you have LED fog lights down here. Now, if you guys are looking for LED headlights or a bi-xenon headlight, you have to actually go for the top of the line XLE premium or limited premium trim, as that's the only trim to get a bi-xenon headlight. Full LED headlights are just not available. At the lower fascia, you can see it's got almost like this body kit like Toyota puts on a lot of the other SE models. And I just think it's a little too overstyled for a van. I probably actually prefer just the looks of the more lower luxury oriented trims because they just don't look like they're trying too hard to make this van look sporty. So at the side profile of the Sienna, the first thing I want to talk about really quickly are the wheels. This SE trim has a 19-inch wheel, which definitely looks a lot more aggressive versus the other trims. It's like 2 inches bigger, riding on 235 series tire with this graphite finish. I probably would choose the SE for the rims. Don't really like the front end styling, but the rims definitely give it a much more swagger look to it, as Toyota would like to call it. Now, it's funny that they still call this a minivan because it's not so mini anymore over the last 20 to 30 years. A wheelbase at 119.3 inches long and an overall length of just over 200 inches long. This is literally only 5 inches shorter than the big Toyota Sequoia. So this is a big vehicle, and it definitely shows that when you look at the side profile. The one thing about the Sienna that looks a little bit plain to me, aside from the SE giving you that lower rocker extension, there aren't really very much in terms of character lines here. Like the new Odyssey has, a lot of different distinctive lines to make it look a little bit more aggressive. If you guys prefer a cleaner look, the Sienna with its very, smooth side profile will probably very much appeal to you. Another indication that you can tell that this is an SE is when you look at the rear. The taillights have that Fast and Furious style clear lens design with an LED combination. The other trims will have a red color, a red tint to the taillights. You can see the brake lights are LEDs, the turn signal and reverse light are incandescent. And then down here, you also have kind of like a lower rear skirt, if you can call that on a van. I mean, again, it's trying a little too hard to be aggressive looking, right down to the rear wing that kind of it gives you here with the third brake light. Now, vans are ridiculously practical, and this is one of the reasons why I really prefer them over an SUV. Now, a power tailgate is included. For some reason, it just didn't want to turn on there. If you just push this button here, you can see it is a power tailgate. It's got a sensor here. If there's somebody that's blocking it, it won't actually close on you, which is good. Now, cargo capacity is cavernous for vans. With all the seats up, the third row up, it's got this nice deep well in here to basically allow the third rows to fit in here. It's rated at just under 40 cubic feet of space. That's more than most compact SUVs, and you have room for 7 passengers. You're also gonna notice there's an area right here that's like, gives you a little bit more storage. That's where you can store the center seat that's in the second row if you guys wanna make this a 7-passenger vehicle instead. Now to fold down the third row, you basically pull on this lever here, and then you pull this down, and then pull this in. Literally, it's just one step. And when you do that, you can see it fills that floor really smoothly, and you can even fold down these little areas right here to keep stuff from kind of falling in. And when you do this, you roughly double the space. If Toyota says if you take out the second row, because those do not fold into the floor like you get in the Pacifica minivan, you're looking at 150 cubic feet of space, which is actually more than Toyota's own Sequoia. And now keep in mind that those second row seats are very heavy to remove. I tried pulling them out and they're just not pleasant to do that. You can slide them forward and push them up, which Toyota says if you do that, you're looking at around 119 cubic feet of space. So the outside of a minivan isn't necessarily the most important factor, but the interior, however, is. Now, before we get inside the new Sienna, let's first take a look at the key fob. This is the older Toyota key fob. You can see with the Sienna, it's a little different because you've got buttons here to open up the power sliding doors, the rear trunk lid. The key itself feels a little bit light, a little bit flimsy to me, but you have to at least go for a premium trim or an SE trim, like an XLE trim to get the intelligent access key. The other trims will just have remote keyless access. Now, as you approach the door handle of the Sienna, you can see there's a little area here like other Toyotas where you can touch this little two-ridged area that'll lock the door for you. To unlock it, Toyota does a sensor on the back of the handle. Just touch the back of the handle and it will unlock the door for you. Now, my tester's interior is definitely a little bit on the dark side, being that this is the sport-oriented SE. You can see it's a black leather interior with some contrasting stitching, which is nice. You've got like an 8-way power driver's seat, but no memory function. You have to go for a limited trim to get the memory seats. This SE gives you the power seat, but not an actual memory seat. But overall, the interior definitely looks pretty old. Remember, this car came out back in 2011. That steering wheel comes off of the current generation Highlander, which you can see Toyota actually pulled it from the Sienna minivan. And overall, you know, it's a nice, I guess, welcoming impression, but if you guys have been in some of the newer products, this is going to look like it's a few years old for sure. Now, getting inside minivans is really easy. As you can see, the step-in is actually perfect. You don't have to step up a little bit higher like you do in some SUVs, but you have a higher seating position than you do with a lot of cars. Now, when you shut the door, it sounds pretty hollow. The entire structure kind of just literally vibrated and shimmied as I shut the door. So it doesn't make a great first impression, but remember, this van is coming up on 9 years old. Now, when you want to start the vehicle up, push button start is included on this trim. Just put your foot on the brake, push this button here to fire up the engine. Now, the engine is typical Toyota smooth. This is the company's corporate 3.5 liter V6 with direct injection. They updated it in 2017. The engine sounds great. I have no complaints. Naturally aspirated V6. You have a new 8-speed automatic transmission that's included with this when they refreshed it for 2017. But overall, let's talk about the rest of this interior, because you can see from the dashboard materials, it's all hard touch plastic on this upper portion here, which is fine. You'll probably never touch that. Toyota puts this like faux stitching with some soft touch injection molded plastic right here on this panel. It's also padded right here over the secondary glove compartment. Down here, it's all hard touch plastic, but it's a nice graining material. So it makes a great first impression. The SE kind of has like this silver painted aluminum look or carbon fiber look trim. It's a weird looking trim. It's included on the SE version. Looking at the door panels, this is actually slightly padded, barely, but it's also padded down here. This is actually the same Softex material that's on the seats. On the door panel here, you have a little grab handle. The windows are One Touch Express for all four, which is nice. Wasn't expecting that. You have a couple, or just one button there, and you can turn off your power door button over there. There's a little storage area there where you can put some coins, which I guess is nice. The steering wheel, you can see, pretty old steering wheel design. It still uses a lot of the older switchgear, like the old cruise control stocks. Toyota added Toyota Safety Sense P as standard on Siennas in 2017. The wheel itself is a manual tilt telescoping with a pretty good amount of adjustability. Now, looking at the instrument panel, you can see very old school in the gauges. You do have a small little 3.5-inch helper screen where you can basically touch this button right here on the steering wheel. You can adjust what you want this to show you. It's very, very small, this screen, so some of the newer Toyotas have given you like a 7-inch LCD between the two analog gauges, so that's something to remember to keep in mind. The center stack over here, you can see, rather simplistic in the way it is to use. This is a 2018 model, so you have Toyota's Entune 2.0 system. This does not have Apple CarPlay or Amazon Alexa. Toyota actually added that. They switched over to the Entune 3.0 when you guys go for a 2019 Sienna, which is a standard if you guys go on the higher trims. That does have Apple CarPlay and Amazon Alexa, but no Android Auto still. Toyota does not do that. This is pretty much the standard stuff. It's a small-ish 7-inch screen. You do have that driver easy speak function where it has a microphone that projects your voice to the back. If you guys turn that on and off, you can see the navigation display. It's old, although they have beefed up the speed. This is actually a lot faster than I remember it being in some of the older Toyota products. Going to your audio here, you can see there's your list. You can put your presets on the side, or on this side over here. The newer Toyota N-Tunes put it on the left side of the screen. So again, something to keep in mind. You do have pretty well labeled buttons, but they are a little bit small. You have this teeny tiny volume knob, a tuning knob, which is good. You have tri-zone climate control, which is standard on every trim level, even the base model. You've got this, you know, shiny, or not really shiny, this sparkly black or grayish plastic that's covering the center stack here. This controls the new 8-speed automatic. It does take up a lot of real estate here in the dash, but you do have a sport and a manual mode. No paddles on the wheel. This is the SE trim, so Toyota tries to make it a little sporty. You have heated seats down here. You can see it's basically a little toggle. You can adjust that. No cooled seats. You have a USB port, power outlet. You have 2 cup holders that will pop out over here, which is nice. Down here you can see is the Blu-ray player, because my tester is the SE Premium. It's got that rear seat entertainment system that's 16 by 4 inches wide. You have more storage down here, which is actually a non-slip mat, so your stuff won't fly around. You have 2 more cup holders here. You have another deep storage over there where you can see you can put the wireless headphones, the remote for the rear seat entertainment, and also a nice padded area here where you can basically put your phone. It won't slide around. Do like the armrest, how each passenger or each person in the front seat gets their own armrest. You don't have to share. The glove compartment, you can see two levels. The first one is actually a really good size. The top one, the bottom one's even larger. It is not damped, or it is damped, but it's not lined with felt, but you can see pretty good storage. Minivans are pretty much known for that. Above you, the SE just gives you a standard size sunroof. If you guys go for a limited trim, they do offer a pano roof, but not on this lower grade. The seats, the Softex material, definitely doesn't feel like leather, but it is supportive and comfortable. Doesn't really hold you in place in cornering, so this isn't like, you know, a more aggressively bolstered seat by going for the SE trim. But overall, the inside, I imagine those of you who go for the 2019 will, you know, get the Apple CarPlay, and you'll probably really enjoy that. Other than that, it's still pretty functional, easy to use, familiar, and as long as you guys are okay with it not being the newest in terms of the brightest, biggest screen resolution, the latest in technology features, the Sienna is still a pretty good place to spend time, especially if you guys go on a lot of long road trips. So in typical minivan fashion, the second row seat is definitely the best place to be in this vehicle, considering the amount of space. Now keep in mind, if you guys go for a higher trim, Toyota actually offers like an Ottoman style seat where it has like a little footstool come out on the higher trims. Now, if you guys don't get that option, check out the amount of space that this thing gives you. You can move the seat all the way up like this, or you can come all the way back to literally where it's like a limo back here. There's just a crap ton amount of space. Now my tester is the 8-passenger model, which basically gives you this little seat right here that you can actually pull in and out. Sitting in this seat is definitely a little bit tight, like it feels very narrow for me. But if you guys don't want to use this seat, you basically just pull this here, pull on this lever here, and then you can essentially just take this seat out, which it is relatively lightweight to do so. But those of you who need to, you know, seat 8 people in a pinch, you may want to consider that. Basically, if you want to put this back in, just kind of stick it back into place. I do like the fact that, you know, you still get the captain's chairs with, you know, the armrest that folds down here. And then my tester, being the SE Premium, also gives you a large 16.4-inch LCD here, rear seat entertainment system with basically a 100-volt household here. You have 2 USBs. You have 2 map pockets over here with like a little bit of, you know, storage right here. Now on the side panels, you can see on the door panels, there is actual rear seat sunshades that come with the premium model. And then you have power sliding rear doors, of course, which is nice to have in a minivan. You have to at least go for an LE trim and up to get that. And then the windows over here, they actually roll down to about 60%, which is nice. Toyota was actually the first van manufacturer or vehicle manufacturer to introduce rolling down side windows on a minivan. So when you want to access the third row of the Sienna, it's also a really easy thing to do. Now, first of all, if you get rid of that middle seat, you can also get through it from there. I left it there just for demonstration purposes. You can basically, all you have to do is fold this lever here. You can see the seat kind of catapults forward, and then you can just kind of slide it out of the way, which is relatively easy to do. You can see it leaves a huge amount of space to get back here. Now let me get back here to show you guys. The beauty about vans is literally the amount of space you get in the third row. You can see I'll get back here behind the actual seat. Now this is where the seat kind of sits at a neutral position. You can slide it to come all the way back, but that'll take up your legroom. But at this position, the second row has a good amount of space, and the third row is able to occupy 3 full-size adults when you get back here. Now the seats themselves, this actually does recline slightly. If you pull this lever here, you can adjust the recline of this, which is nice. You have rear seat air vents back here to go with that third row, or the rear seat climate control. Back here, all the materials are hard touch plastic, but you kind of want that in a van. You want it to be durable. And then you also get these manual sunshades on this premium model. So overall, it's a really nice place to spend time. If you guys want a panoramic sunroof, this trim does not offer it, which I highly recommend if you guys go for the higher trims, because it'll probably let in a lot more light into this rather dark cabin. So under the hood of this Swagger van, Toyota only offers one engine choice for 2018. If you guys remember the previous model, or until 2013, they offered a 2.7 liter 4-cylinder. Nobody bought that because it was just underpowered. Now, in 2017, Toyota refreshed the engine. This is the same V6 from the new Camry. It's the 3.5 liter V6 with direct and port injection. That's what D4S stands for on the cover. And it makes 296 horsepower. That's almost 300 horsepower in a minivan. Which is a 30 horsepower bump versus the pre-2016 models. Now it also makes 263 foot-pounds of torque. Now the transmission, it's also been refreshed. It's now an 8-speed automatic, so that's 2 more gears versus the previous generation. And fuel economy, it's surprisingly not bad, rated at 19 in the city, 27 on the highway if you guys go for front-wheel drive. The Sienna remains the only minivan in the segment that offers all-wheel drive. If you guys remember, Chrysler took away that option a few years ago. Unfortunately, when you go with all-wheel drive, it drops the fuel economy to 18 city, 24 on the highway. Thankfully, you can only use regular gas. It'll be fine. As this one sits, it's pretty heavy. It weighs around 4,600 pounds, add 100 pounds for all-wheel drive. And if you guys plan to tow with your van, this thing can still tow about 3,500 pounds. So let's get out on the road and see how it all performs. So the last Sienna that I actually showed you guys was a 2015 model, and that had the old engine with 268 horsepower. So Toyota gave it a boost of 30 horsepower, I mean almost 300 horsepower. This is the most powerful minivan in the segment, which is kind of silly that a van has almost 300 horsepower. But hey, with that 8-speed automatic, I mean, 3 years ago when I drove the Sienna, I thought it was a pleasant driving van. This new one here with 30 more horses, you put your foot down, and the van definitely moves. I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's exactly noticeable. I mean, you're not gonna buy a van to go drag racing, but the engine itself, it's typical Toyota. It's very smooth. It makes a pretty decent noise when you get the revs up. But mostly you're gonna find that the engine has plenty of power to move around this van. I mean, this thing's heavy. It's 4,600 pounds. This is certainly not mini, and like its name suggests, it's a big vehicle. But what the Sienna does excel at really well, this current one, is it still eats up highway miles, basically like the best of any like luxury sedan at that point. It definitely rides pretty well, although I am noticing it's not as quiet as, you know, a luxury sedan. This is definitely not a Lexus of minivans for sure. There's a little bit more wind noise and road noise that I would like. Granted that this is basically, you know, a brick that goes through the air. But overall, it tracks very straight. It has a pretty good ride quality, despite the fact that it has a semi-independent twist beam suspension. But where the SE version kind of falls short is actually being a sportier van. The steering is very slow. I can literally do this. It doesn't do anything. It's a very slow ratio. It doesn't actually move very well, or it doesn't make the vehicle change directions very quickly. The suspension is sport-tuned, which results in a slightly firmer ride quality. I just don't know if it's a good thing. Like some of you who probably go for the LE or the XLE or the limited trims, I mean, unless you really like the way the SE looks, you know, with the unique front fascia, the unique wheels, I think you may be better off just going with the luxury comfort-oriented trim versus, you know, this sport-oriented model. But driving down the road, the visibility in the Sienna is excellent. This is a big van with big side mirrors with very good view out of the front. The hood is not within your sight. The view out of the back is good because this thing is just a traditional boxy shape. So just cruising down the highway, you're gonna find a lot to like with this thing, aside from the fact that it could be quieter. Some competitors definitely have less noise than this vehicle. The new Pacifica comes to mind, the new Odyssey. In terms of the structure, as I go over bumps, the platform still feels relatively rigid. I don't hear too much in the ways of squeaks and rattles. It's just this very slow, numb steering can kind of dull the overall experience. But, you know, cruising along here on the highway, the seats are very comfortable. You sit up nice and high, you have great visibility. It's nice and open and airy in this thing, which is what you basically want in a van. And when you just drive it, you know, normally, like most people drive these vans, you know, it's going to feel like a huge improvement over whatever, you know, old van you're probably trading in to get one of these things. I am still a huge fan of vans, despite the fact that people in America don't like minivans. They have this bad stigma with them. If you really do need to carry around people and stuff, this is the best vehicle to do it in. Now this car does have Toyota's Safety Sense P as standard, so you have the company's adaptive cruise control. It has the lane departure alert with steering assist. This is the older system. Just know that, you know, you have the automatic braking, you have the adaptive cruise control. It works fine, but the newer 2.0 system in the new RAV that I've tested, the new Corolla, those are far superior. Now we're gonna take this exit ramp here. The road is slightly damp, so I'm not gonna push it too much, but ooh, there's the tire squeal right there. So the tires are pretty quick to give up their traction. Hideous understeer, you can feel that there. But overall, I mean, does it feel car-like? Yes and no. It just feels big. It feels big, and like you don't really want to push something like this because it feels heavy. So if Toyota truly wants to offer up a sportier van, they need to do something. The Odyssey, to me, is definitely still the sportiest driving van in the segment, if you could even call a van sporty. Now there are no drive modes, but there is a sport mode here in the transmission. If you just slap it over here to the left into S, it basically puts it into a sport mode. So let's try an acceleration run here. Front wheel drive. This thing will get out of its way very nicely. This is still the only van available with all-wheel drive, which, by the way, Toyota made it available on SE trims for 2019. You might want to go for the all-wheel drive because this front-wheel drive model definitely likes to spit its tires out. But the old van would get to 60 in like 7.5 seconds. This honestly doesn't really feel that much quicker than the last Sienna I drove. The transmission, it's an 8-speed auto. It's the same one in the Camry. Could be a little bit... It could be retuned to be a little bit quicker shifting. I mean, they've tuned it for maximum fuel efficiency, which you can basically feel as it streaks out its top gears and whatnot, which is fine. That's what you're looking for in a van. You're not going to drive this to go drag racing. It has plenty of power, but the all-wheel drive availability on the Sienna is definitely a huge selling feature. And that's probably one of the reasons why this van easily still sells about 120,000 units annually. It's still a really good vehicle, albeit an old one, but old isn't always necessarily a bad thing. I think for 2019 with the new Entune 3.0, with the Apple CarPlay, that really helps. For me, the Sienna is still, you know, a very much well-established player. Would I choose this over an Odyssey or Pacifica? Probably not. Unless you guys are very much, you know, faithful, loyal to Toyota. You prefer the more, you know, I guess, familiar environment this vehicle gives you. Now let's talk a little bit about the fuel economy. It's rated at 1927 on regular gas. I've been averaging around 17 mpg in mostly city driving. On the highway, the computer told me the best I got was 22.5. So pretty much well short of the numbers. I imagine some of you may be able to do better, but it's the 8-speed auto, the way it's calibrated, you know, it makes the car feel sluggish unless my foot is all the way to the floor, like right now, which is why I put my foot to the floor like this. But when you do, it has very good passing power. But overall, still a pleasant van to drive, not really sporty, just comfortable, good visibility, and just very familiar. So although the minivan segment continues to shrink here in America, the Sienna now represents the oldest offering if you guys are looking for a new van in 2018. You guys remember I just showed you guys the all-new Odyssey. The Pacifica just came out in 2017, and then the Kia Sedona came out back in 2015. So Toyota definitely has some work to do with the Sienna, but where does that leave it in the segment? Well, surprisingly, it's still a relatively competitive van. Although the styling doesn't really appeal to me, its interior is still spacious, very functional. It has most of the features you want. If you guys wait for a 2019 model, you'll get the Toyota Entune 3.0 with the Apple CarPlay and Amazon Alexa capabilities. So it's still definitely worth a look. Where it's going to basically just make this vehicle fall is when you look at the interior trimmings. Its interior is definitely not the Lexus of the class. It doesn't have the updated tech features of the new Odyssey, for example. And the Pacifica has that plug-in hybrid capability if you guys are looking for something that's really different and really cool. Now, with all that said, how much does it cost to put a Sienna in your driveway if you guys are looking to buy one of these? Well, it starts at just under $32,000 for a base L version. This SE trim level starts at around $37,000. The premium model adds a lot of upgrades like the keyless access, the upgraded seats, the upgraded infotainment system, that rear seat entertainment system in the second row. This one stickers for around $43,000. Add $1,000 for the destination, you're looking at $44,000 $400, which is definitely a pretty good amount of money. I thought the Sienna would be a little bit less expensive, but keep in mind, because this is a Toyota, it's gonna have, you know, stronger resale values and residuals versus some of the competition. Also keep in mind, if you guys are looking for a top of the line, limited model with all-wheel drive, that one can get close to $50,000, which is actually the same price as a new Odyssey. So with all that said, where does it leave the Sienna in the segment? Well, personally, I think the new Odyssey is now the one to beat. Unless you guys really want a plug-in hybrid minivan, you have to go for the Pacifica. I would really like to see Toyota, you know, move this van onto its all-new TNGA platform. The powertrain is fine, keep the all-wheel drive, but really just update the interior with some new tech features like the vacuum cleaner you can find in the Chrysler and the Honda, not available in the Sienna. But hey, if those gimmicky features aren't important to you, this 2018 Sienna is definitely still worth a look. But I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2018 Sienna SE Premium. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.